Hello, and welcome to the English Channel, a simple space for curious minds and growing English skills. We explore exciting topics, amazing books, and real-life ideas, all in clear, easy English. Whether you're learning words, practicing listening, or just love good stories, this podcast is for you.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm Liam.
And I'm Lisa. Great to be here.
So today, forget the surface level stuff. We're really diving deep, straight into what it takes to actually connect, to make a real impact when you talk to people.
Yeah, it's not just about throwing information out there. It's about being truly heard, being remembered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about those moments, right? The big ones.
Yeah.
Landing a job, pitching that idea you really believe in, even just, getting your point across to someone you care about.
Absolutely. Your ability to communicate effectively, it's kind of the bedrock for so much success. We've all had that feeling, needing our message to cut through the noise and really stick.
Totally. So in this deep dive, our mission, it was pretty clear. We want to equip you with real strategies, things you can actually use to feel more confident and make sure your message doesn't just land briefly.
But leaves a real lasting impression.
Yeah.
We'll dig into how to build your whole presentation, your whole message, really, with your audience right at the center from the get-go. It doesn't matter if it's one person or, 1,000.
Right. And we're looking at practical techniques, things that make your message memorable beyond just listing facts or figures.
We're talking about making it resonate, making it stick with people long after you've stopped talking.
Plus, and this is a big one for almost everyone, we're going to tackle those nerves, those pre-speaking jitters.
Oh, yeah. And how to handle those moments when things don't go exactly to plan without, completely losing it.
Exactly. So get ready. We're about to take a really deep dive into making your voice truly count.
Okay, let's kick off with something fundamental. This idea of putting your audience first. It sounds simple, but so many presentations kind of miss the mark right here.
How so?
Well, the presenter gets wrapped up in what they want to say, their points, their agenda, maybe their data. They forget to think about what the audience actually needs or, frankly, wants to hear.
So it's flipped. It becomes speaker-centric instead of audience-centric.
Exactly. That's the core insight. You've got to shift from me to you, from what I want to tell to what you need to know.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. It's like the audience is the ultimate judge.
Right.
If the message doesn't resonate, it's not their fault for not getting it.
Precisely. It's on us as the speaker to adjust, to refine how we're communicating. You wouldn't blame customers if a product launch fails, right? You'd look at the product or the marketing. Same idea here.
Yeah, that makes sense. And these skills, they're not just for formal keynote speeches, are they?
Not at all. It's actually kind of surprising how universal this is. Good communication is a key ingredient for success in almost any field. You see incredibly smart, talented people who sometimes get overlooked.
Right.
Simply because they haven't quite figured out how to articulate their ideas effectively, how to really connect with people and show their value.
It's like having a great product but no way to tell anyone about it. You're leaving potential on the table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So much potential. That's why this youth-centric, audience-first approach is so crucial, whether it's a quick chat with your boss or, presenting to a whole auditorium.
Okay, so audience first is the foundation. Building on that, let's talk about something everyone feels at some point. Nerves. Presentation anxiety.
Ah, yes, the jitters. The standard advice, take deep breaths. Picture them in their underwear. It often doesn't really get to the root of the problem.
Right, because the fear isn't usually about the audience's clothes. It's about giving a bad presentation, about messing up or not connecting.
Exactly. It's the fear of the performance itself not landing well. Maybe you had a bad experience before, or you've just sat through too many, frankly, boring presentations. That worry is real.
So positive thinking alone isn't the magic bullet.
Not usually. The real key, the secret weapon against that fear, is thorough preparation. But, and this is crucial, preparation with your specific audience in mind.
Okay, let's break that down. What does audience-focused preparation actually involve, beyond just, knowing your stuff?
One really powerful technique, though it feels a bit weird at first, is to record yourself. Actually record yourself rehearsing the whole thing.
On video?
Yep. On video. It's the only way to get objective feedback on how you actually come across your words, your tone, your body language, everything. You spot things you'd never notice otherwise.
Like awkward pauses or maybe talking too fast?
Exactly. Or maybe a point isn't as clear as you thought. Then it becomes this cycle. Rehearse, record, watch it back, cringe maybe a little.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And then refine. Keep doing that until you genuinely watch it and think, okay, yeah, that works. I feel good about that. You need to see what the audience sees.
That makes total sense. It's
Yes.
moving beyond just knowing the words to knowing the delivery. So we're prepared, we're managing nerves. How do we make sure we leave a positive impression, not just avoid disaster?
Right, because avoiding disaster isn't really the goal, is it? The biggest trap isn't usually some huge embarrassing moment. It's being, well, professional, competent, but utterly forgettable.
The perfectly adequate but instantly forgotten
It's
presentation.
exactly that. They deliver the info, maybe the slides look nice, they finish on time, and then poof, gone from memory 5 minutes later, no real impact.
And adequate isn't why we're speaking. We want to be remembered positively.
Precisely. The aim isn't just to dodge a negative impression, it's to actively craft a positive, lasting one. And often, the answer isn't just piling on more data or more bullet points.
So what is it?
It's about finding ways to be memorable. Injecting some creativity, finding a hook, doing something that stands out. Remember Steve Jobs pulling the first MacBook Air out of a manila envelope?
Oh yeah. Instantly showed how thin it was. Way better than just saying the dimensions.
Exactly. That visual, that little bit of theater, it stuck. He didn't just present data. He created a memorable moment. So the key insight here is, don't just aim for competence, aim for memorability. Do something that makes people remember you and your core idea positively.
That's a great point. Be memorable, not just okay. And this all loops back to what you said about rehearsal, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. That fear we talked about. A lot of it is fear of the unknown. What will I sound like? How will this point land? Will they get it? Rehearsal makes the unknown known. It makes it familiar.
And you really stressed recording, not just like talking to the mirror. Why is video so much better?
Talking to a mirror helps a bit with maybe basic familiarity, but you're still seeing a reversed image, and you're mostly focused on your face. Video gives you the audience's perspective. You see the whole picture, your posture, your gestures, how you transition, the whole flow. It's tangible feedback you can actually work with.
It's like editing a draft of your actual spoken performance, not just the script.
Exactly. And critically, practice alone isn't enough if the underlying content is, well, boring.
Right, you can rehearse a dull presentation perfectly,
Yeah.
and it's still dull.
Precisely. If you're watching your recording and even you are bored, that's a huge red flag. Your audience doesn't stand a chance. That's when you need to go back and replace the abstract, dry stuff with things that actually spark interest. Real examples, case studies, stories that you find engaging.
Find the interesting angle, even in dry material.
You have to. Keep refining it until you genuinely watch the recording and think, yeah, I'd actually find this interesting.
Okay, so you've prepped, rehearsed on video, refined the content. You feel good. How do you actually know if it's effective before the main event? How do you test it?
Great question. Don't wait until the actual presentation to find out if it works. If possible, do a dry run with a small test audience, people who are similar to your real audience.
Like a focus group for your talk.
Sort of, yeah. And don't just ask them, did you like it? Ask specific, targeted questions. What were the main things you took away? What parts were clearest? Were there any parts that were confusing? What story or example really stuck with you?
Getting concrete feedback on comprehension and recall.
Exactly. It gives you actionable data. And this feedback loop shouldn't stop there. After the actual presentation, try to get feedback from your real audience too.
Same kind of specific questions.
Yes. Avoid the generic, how'd I do? Ask things like, what's one thing you'll remember a week from now? Or how would you explain the core message to a colleague who missed this?
That's smart. Because if they just say, you seemed confident, but can't recall the message.
Then you haven't truly communicated. You entertained, maybe, but you didn't transfer the understanding. Style is important, but substance has to stick.
That's a crucial distinction. Okay, zooming out a bit. When we stand up to speak, what should our big picture goals be? What are we realistically trying to achieve?
I think there are 5 key goals we should aim for every single time. First, look and sound comfortable, confident, relaxed, authoritative. Your demeanor sets the stage.
Okay, project confidence. What's second?
Be understood. Seems obvious, right? But avoid jargon. Speak clearly. Make sure your language fits the audience. If they don't understand you, nothing else matters.
Clarity. Got it. Third.
Be memorable. This is where many people fall short. Don't just be clear. Be sticky. Avoid abstract language. Use specifics, visuals, stories.
Make it memorable. Fourth.
Drive action. Usually you're presenting for a reason. You want someone to buy something, approve something, hire someone, change a behavior. What action do you want? Make it clear.
Inspire action. And the fifth goal.
Encourage listeners to tell others your message. You want your ideas to spread beyond the room. Make it easy for them to share the core points.
Wow. Okay, so comfortable, confident, understood, memorable, action-driving, and shareable. That's a comprehensive checklist.
It is, because real communication isn't just talking at people. It's about the message being received, processed, understood, remembered, and ideally acted upon. Getting all 5 isn't pie in the sky. It's what effective communication looks like.
Okay, with those 5 goals locked in, let's get practical about crafting the message itself. How do we start strong? That opening moment feels so critical.
It absolutely is. And so many presenters stumble right out of the gate, the most common mistake, starting by talking about themselves.
Like, hi, I'm Liam. I'm the Senior Director of X. I'm so happy to be here. Let me tell you about my company.
Exactly that sequence. While maybe polite on the surface, it's fundamentally self-focused. And honestly, often quite boring for the audience. They're not there to hear your bio initially.
They're there for what they can get out of it.
Precisely. That opening is a crucial moment. Are you prioritizing yourself or are you prioritizing them? If you make it about them right away, you build immediate connection. If you start with yourself, you risk losing them before you even get to the good stuff.
So ditch the standard about me intro spiel. What's the alternative? How do we grab them?
The secret is to talk about their world immediately. Their problems, their needs, their desires, their questions. Start there.
Can you give an example?
Sure. If I'm doing that workshop for young professionals instead of my bio, I might start with, how many of you have felt frustrated trying to get your ideas heard at work? Or maybe, what's the single biggest communication challenge you're facing right now?
Ah, okay. That instantly makes it about their experience.
Exactly. It might not sound super slick or dramatic, but to that specific audience, it's highly relevant and interesting. It signals, this person understands my world, and this talk is going to address my issues.
So the key is doing a bit of homework to know what their issues are.
Yes. Even just chatting with a few people beforehand, or sending out a quick pre-session survey. Find out what's on their minds. Then reflect that understanding in your opening. Personalize it. Make them feel seen right from the start. Your opening doesn't need to be earth-shattering, just genuinely interesting and relevant to them.
Love that. Focus outward from word 1. Now, shifting gears slightly, presentation length. There's always talk about the ideal time, like TED Talks being around 18 minutes. Is there a magic number?
That's mostly a myth, honestly. You still see articles referencing specific times, but there's no universal perfect length.
So we shouldn't obsess over hitting, say, exactly 20 minutes.
Definitely not. The real secret, speak for as long as you are consistently interesting and memorable to your audience. That's it.
Interesting and memorable. Length is secondary.
Completely secondary. Think about a great movie or a gripping TV show. You don't complain it's too long if you're totally engaged, right? You might even wish it were longer.
True. You only notice the length when you start getting bored.
Precisely. Boredom is the enemy, not the clock. If your audience feels it's dragging, it's almost always a content or delivery issue, not purely a time issue. Focus on making every minute count, keep it engaging, make your points resonate, and the length will take care of itself. Aim to be interesting, and time becomes much less relevant.
Quality over quantity of minutes. Makes sense. What about the number of points? It feels like you should be thorough, cover all the bases.
The temptation to be thorough. It's strong, but often counterproductive. Research and just common experience shows that audiences rarely remember more than a few key takeaways, maybe 3 to 5 distinct points maximum.
Only 3 to 5. That seems low, especially if the topic is complex.
It feels low, I know. But think about your own experience. After a typical hour-long presentation, how many specific points do you clearly recall a day later? Trying to cram in 10 or 15 points, even if they all feel important to you, just creates noise. It dilutes everything.
It's like trying to juggle too many balls. You end up dropping most of them.
Perfect analogy. It's actually harder work for the presenter to narrow things down, to really prioritize. It's easier to just make a long list. But you're not optimizing for your ease of preparation. You're optimizing for their ease of retention.
Right. Focus on what they can actually absorb and remember.
Exactly. So identify your absolute core messages. The 3, maybe 4 or 5 things they must walk away knowing. Then go deep on those. Support them with stories, examples, data, visuals. Make those few points really solid and sticky. less is often more memorable.
Depth over breadth. Focus the message. Okay, what about that classic structure? Tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. Still good advice.
Well, the intent behind it, repetition for reinforcement, isn't wrong, but as a rigid tactical formula, it's often not very effective and can feel quite patronizing or just dull.
Why doesn't simple repetition work that well?
Because if something is boring or unclear the first time you say it, saying it 3 times doesn't magically make it interesting or clear. It just makes it 3 times as boring.
Huh, good point.
Conversely, if you say something once, but you say it in a really compelling way, maybe with a great story, a powerful visual, something emotionally resonant, it can stick instantly. Think about those airline safety briefings again. They tell you about the exits multiple times on every flight.
Yeah, but I still probably couldn't tell you exactly how many there were on my last flight.
My point exactly. It's often delivered without real engagement. So the secret isn't just repetition, it's making the initial telling truly memorable and relevant. Focus on being interesting the first time rather than just planning to repeat yourself.
Make it stick initially.
Got it.
Now, a huge part of making it relevant and interesting is truly knowing your audience. But you said earlier we shouldn't just guess what they want. How do we find out?
Right, guessing is risky. You're too close to your own material. What seems obvious or maybe even basic to you might be exactly what they find fascinating. And the common trap of playing it safe by trying to cover absolutely everything.
Wow.
It usually backfires. You dilute your message so much that nothing stands out. You communicate nothing by trying to communicate everything.
So how do we avoid the guessing game?
The solution is surprisingly simple, though maybe requires a little effort. Ask them. Directly ask potential audience members beforehand what they're most interested in hearing about, what their biggest questions are related to your topic.
Actually talk to them before the presentation.
Yes. Pick up the phone, send a few emails, have brief conversations, talk to a representative sample. It completely eliminates the risk of focusing on the wrong things. It's free market research.
And people probably appreciate being asked.
They almost always do. It shows you care about their needs and are tailoring the content for them. It builds goodwill even before you start speaking. Don't guess, just ask. It's the safest and most effective way.
That's fantastic practical advice. Okay, let's shift to using humor. Can it be a good tool? Is it risky?
Humor can be absolutely brilliant, if done well. When you get people to laugh genuinely, it means they're engaged, they understand you, they're processing, and frankly, they probably like you more. It breaks tension and shows you're not just a talking head.
So, it signals connection, but what are the big don'ts? Where does humor go wrong?
Oh, there are plenty of pitfalls. Starting with a totally unrelated canned joke is usually awkward. Telling jokes that are insensitive or could offend someone is obviously a major no-no. Humor that doesn't connect back to your point at all can just feel random.
Like, why did they tell that joke?
Exactly. Also, announcing, "I'm going to tell a funny story now," kind of kills the spontaneity, and feeling obligated to be funny when it's not your natural style often falls flat. And definitely don't react badly if a joke doesn't get the laugh you expected. Just move on.
So authenticity and relevance are key.
Sure.
Where does good, appropriate humor usually come from?
Often, the best humor comes from personal stories, relatable observations, maybe a bit of self-deprecation. Making fun of yourself is usually safe and shows you don't take yourself too seriously. Think about funny or ironic things that have happened to you related to the topic.
Use your own experiences.
Yes. And record your talks. See what naturally gets a chuckle. Maybe you can refine that bit. But remember, the main goal is communication, not stand-up comedy. Humor is a spice, not the main course. Use it strategically to enhance, not distract.
Great perspective. Spice, not the main course. Now, you mentioned stories. We've touched on them a few times. How essential are they really, even if my topic is, say, financial projections, numbers and facts?
I'd say they are absolutely essential, even then, maybe especially then. Because behind every number, every data point, there's usually a human story, why that number matters, how it came to be, what its impact is. Facts and figures alone lack context and emotional resonance. Stories provide that.
They make the data meaningful.
Exactly. And remember, unlike a teacher in a classroom, we usually can't force our audience to pay attention. We don't have that inherent authority. We have to earn their attention.
And stories are a good way to earn it.
One of the best ways. Just delivering information linearly, fact after fact, often doesn't work well for retention. Stories engage the brain differently. They create mental pictures, evoke emotions, make things relatable.
So the goal isn't to be like a master storyteller performing on stage.
Not necessarily. It's about using story as a tool for making your message clear and memorable. The most effective stories are usually true experiences you've had, things you have an emotional connection to that your audience can relate to, and that clearly illustrate the specific point you're making.
What makes a good story structurally?
Typically, you want a setting, where, when, characters, ideally you and maybe one other person, some dialogue, what was said, a clear problem or conflict, how it got resolved, the action, and crucially, the lesson learned or the point it demonstrates.
And these stories need to be your stories.
Ideally, yes. You can't really delegate finding your best stories. They come from your lived experience. Think about your key messages. What personal experience illustrates this point? If you can't think of one, maybe the point isn't as important as you thought. Aim for a relevant story for each core message.
That's a great filter. Okay, let's talk tone. Formal versus informal. How do we decide?
That's interesting because, honestly, the audience doesn't usually think in those terms. Formal and informal are labels we often put on it.
So what are they thinking?
They're basically thinking one of two things. This is interesting and useful, or this is boring. Your job is always to get the first reaction.
Regardless of the setting?
Regardless of the setting, the audience size, the topic, the secret is to always aim for a delivery that is interesting, memorable, and conversational. Too many people equate a formal setting, big room, important people with needing to be stiff, reading notes, using jargon. That's usually a recipe for a bad presentation.
So even in a boardroom, aim for conversational.
Absolutely. Think about the best communicators you've seen, even world leaders. They often maintain a conversational, relatable tone, even in the most formal contexts. It makes them seem authentic. Don't tell yourself, I have to be formal. Tell yourself, I have to be interesting and connect. Focus on conversationality, always.
That frees you up a lot. Okay, visual aids, PowerPoint, it's everywhere. What's the rule?
The golden rule is only use it if it genuinely helps the audience understand and remember your message better than your words alone could. Can you communicate the core idea effectively just by talking? If yes, maybe you don't need the slide.
Visuals should enhance, not be a crutch.
Exactly. They should clarify, simplify, make things more memorable, and using PowerPoint is a commitment. It means more rehearsal, dealing with tech issues. Remember, it's an audience-focused presentation, not a PowerPoint presentation.
What are some key do's and don'ts for using slides effectively?
Okay, some quick rules. Know your stuff without the slides. Use way fewer words, much larger font. Use high-quality images that actually relate. Use as many slides as needed to make things clear, but each slide should add value. Give people time to actually look at the slide. Don't have a slide up if you want them focused on you. You are the star, not the slides. And always be ready to present without them if the tech fails.
You mentioned images over words. Why is that so important?
Our brains are just wired that way. We process and remember images much more easily than text. Simple, clear visuals, photos, simple charts stick better. Avoid those super dense slides packed with bullet points or overly complex graphs nobody can decipher quickly. Show, don't just tell. Keep it clean, keep it simple.
What about low-tech options? Whiteboards, flip charts, props?
Absolutely. They can be incredibly effective, especially in smaller groups or more interactive settings. The secret, again, is simplicity.
What's the advantage of, say, a flip chart?
It allows for real-time creation. You can build ideas visually with the audience, which is very engaging. Physical props can also be super memorable. Think politicians holding up objects. Low-tech tools often encourage you to move more, interact more, creating visual energy.
So choose the tool, high-tech or low-tech, based purely on what helps the audience understand and remember best.
That's the bottom line. Always audience first.
Okay, we've covered crafting the message and visuals. Let's move into the actual delivery. Confidence starts early, right? Even with the introduction.
Definitely. That first impression counts, and it starts with how you're introduced. Don't let your introducer bore the audience with a long, rambling bio full of irrelevant details before you even open your mouth.
How do we prevent that?
You control it. Keep your introduction relevant and brief. Ask yourself, what does this specific audience need to know about me right now to be interested and see me as credible for this topic? Just that.
Tailor it every time.
Every single time. Ditch the stuff that isn't relevant to this audience in this talk. Aim for maybe 1 or 2 sentences in a small setting, up to maybe 60 to 160 words for a larger group intro. Keep it tight and impactful, and crucially, write it out for your introducer. Large print, single sheet. Give it to them beforehand, have extras. Make it easy for them to introduce you well.
Take control of your own intro. Smart.
Yeah.
Once we're up there, how do we actively connect? It's easy to get lost in our own heads.
It is. The failure to connect usually happens because the presenter's focus is inward on their notes, their timing, their slides, their own anxiety. The key is a conscious outward shift. Prioritize the audience over everything else.
How do we do that practically?
Lots of ways. Encourage questions anytime. Ask them questions. Make real eye contact. We'll talk more about that. Watch their faces. Do they look confused, engaged? Seek nods, verbal agreement, move around the room. Refer back to conversations you had before the talk. Use your notes subtly. Don't stare at them. Lean in. Respond to their energy.
So it's about being present with them, not just performing at them.
Exactly. Even if your delivery isn't technically perfect, if your focus is genuinely on helping them understand, you'll connect. A flawless delivery with zero audience focus feels cold and distant. Care more about them than about yourself, and your connection will improve dramatically.
That's powerful. Okay, a big anxiety point.
Yeah.
Reading the speech. Should we ever do it? To guarantee we don't miss anything.
My strong advice is no. Don't read your presentation. I get the temptation. You want it to be perfect. You don't want to forget points. But reading a speech well is incredibly difficult. It's really not for amateurs.
Why is it so hard to do well?
When you read, your pace becomes unnatural, often too fast. Your voice goes flat, monotone. You lose eye contact completely because you're looking down. You can't see how the audience is reacting. You sound disconnected, maybe even robotic. It just screams prepared text, not conversation.
It kills the connection.
It absolutely kills the connection. Comparing an average person trying to read a speech engagingly to like a couch potato trying to climb Everest, it's that hard to do well. Rely on good notes instead.
Okay, so if we're not reading, how do we remember everything? What's the secret to using notes effectively?
The secret is to cheat use notes. Don't try to memorize word for word. That's too much pressure. A really good set of notes, used skillfully, is your best friend.
What makes notes good and skillfully used?
Good notes, ideally one page, huge font like 20 or 30 point, just keywords or short 1 to 4 word fragments, not full sentences. Number your key points, maybe cut the paper in half so it's smaller. Skillful use. Never hold them visibly or wave them around. Place copies strategically where you'll be standing or walking. Know your first few minutes by heart to start strong. Glance down naturally. Don't make sudden head jerks. It should be a quick, subtle reference, not reading.
Like little trigger words to jog your memory.
Exactly. They're prompts, not a script. A safety net you can glance at discreetly when needed.
That sounds much more manageable. Let's talk questions. Take them during or save them all for the end.
My strong preference, in almost all cases, is to take questions anytime. Remember that audience first principle. The presentation is for them. Questions are part of their learning process.
But don't they interrupt the flow? Isn't it easier to keep them all together?
That's the common thinking, but it's based on faulty assumptions. Presenters worry about being derailed, losing their place, not covering everything, looking foolish if they don't know an answer. It comes from seeing the presentation as your performance, not their experience.
So what's the benefit of taking them as they come?
Huge benefits. The person asking feels heard and appreciated. Others often have the same question. It shows you're confident and can think on your feet. Good questions actually make you look better by allowing you to elaborate. Patiently answering a dumb question makes you look gracious. It makes the whole thing feel more like a conversation, a shared exploration.
It builds connection and clarifies things in real time.
Precisely. View questioners not as interrupters, but as helpers, making the presentation better for everyone.
What if someone keeps asking off-topic questions or dominates it?
You politely manage it. Be a traffic cop. Say something like, great question, let's park that one for a moment, or interesting point, let's connect after the main session to dive deeper into that. Acknowledge them, but gently steer back. Embrace questions, they can be your secret weapon.
Okay, let's tackle the age-old question. What do I do with my hands?
Huh. Yes, everyone asks this. The old advice to keep them glued to your sides or clasped rigidly is terrible advice. It's completely unnatural.
So we should move our hands.
Absolutely. The secret is simple. Use your hands naturally, just like you do when you're having a normal conversation. Use them to emphasize points, to illustrate, to add energy. Try not to move them, makes you look stiff, awkward, uncomfortable, and it can even affect your voice quality.
It's funny. Often when people are nervous, they freeze their hands, right? Not wave them too much.
Exactly. They adopt these weird, uncomfortable poses, the fig leaf, Hands behind the back, death grip on the lectern or a pen. Record yourself rehearsing naturally when you're relaxed. Your hand gestures are probably fine. You might need to consciously start moving them initially if you tend to freeze, but natural is the goal.
So relax and let them do what they normally do.
Pretty much. Be aware of any culturally specific gestures, obviously, but generally, natural movement makes you look confident, authoritative, and authentic.
Okay, hands moving naturally. Where should our eyes be looking? Eye contact.
Crucial. Let's break it down. Bottom tier. Staring at notes, slides, shoes, ceiling, anywhere but the audience. Worst thing you can do.
Kills connection instantly.
Totally. Next level up, maybe 95% of presenters. The windshield wiper. Standing back and forth across the room, never really landing on anyone. It feels impersonal.
So what's the top tier? The really effective way?
The top tiny percentage do this. Sustained eye contact. Pick one person, look them in the eye for a complete thought or sentence, maybe 3 to 6 seconds. Really connect with them for that moment. Then, move naturally to someone in a different part of the room and do the same.
Like having mini one-on-one conversations within the group.
Exactly. It feels incredibly personal and engaging for the people you connect with. Don't be robotic about the pattern. Just ensure you're making genuine, sustained contact around the room. Your eyes are powerful. Making someone feel seen is far better than having them drift off.
And it keeps people more alert, maybe feeling like you might engage them directly.
It does. Plus, you appear calmer and more deliberate when your eye movements are focused rather than darting around. Great content plus great eye contact is a potent combination.
Makes sense. What about physical movement? Stand still behind the lectern or walk around?
Again, the old advice to stand perfectly still or cling to the lectern, generally bad advice. Moving around is almost always better, whether it's for 5 people, 5,000.
Why is movement better?
Think of the lectern like training wheels. Necessary maybe at the very beginning, but pros rarely use them. Moving makes you look more confident, comfortable, conversational, interesting, memorable. It distinguishes you. Audiences are often subconsciously impressed by someone who can walk and talk fluidly without being glued to notes or a podium.
People often use lecterns just to hold their notes, though.
Right. But you can place your notes on a small table to the side or multiple places. You don't need to stand behind the barrier. Moving lets you connect with different parts of the audience, get closer to questioners, add visual energy, just avoid nervous pacing. Stop moving when you make a really important point.
So movement makes you a bigger presence, harder to ignore.
Yes. It makes you more dynamic. You walk and talk every day. Bring that natural dynamism to your presentations.
Great points. Okay, let's shift into troubleshooting common problems. What if we know some of our content is potentially dry or technical? Should we warn the audience, sorry folks, the next bit is a bit boring?
Oh, please don't do that. Never, ever apologize for your content being boring. It's like starting a date by saying, just warning you, I might not be very interesting.
Sets a terrible expectation.
Exactly. It disrespects the audience's time and lowers expectations that are probably already pretty low for presentations. Your job is to exceed those low expectations, not confirm them. Surprise them by finding the interesting angle, by being engaging from the start. Your attitude should be, this is actually fascinating, let me show you why.
Own it and make it interesting. What about mistakes? We forget a point, stumble over a word, click the wrong slide. What's the recovery strategy?
Rule number 1, don't tell anyone, don't draw attention to it. Everyone makes small slips. The key is your reaction.
What do average presenters do?
They often gasp, blush, apologize profusely. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I totally blanked. They make a huge deal out of it, and that becomes the most memorable moment, the only emotional spike.
So what should we do instead?
If it's minor, just pause briefly, collect yourself, and carry on as if nothing happened. Ignore weak moments, and chances are the audience will too. Don't signal panic. Just keep going smoothly. They'll follow your lead. Brush it off.
Okay, what if time gets cut short? We look up and only have 5 minutes left for 15 minutes of material. Do we talk really, really fast?
No, absolutely not. Speeding up frantically just ensures nothing gets communicated effectively. It's like fast-forwarding a movie. You see the images flash by, but you don't absorb the story.
So what's the solution?
You have to make a quick, strategic cut. Know your priorities beforehand. What are the absolute must-have points? Deliver those clearly, even if briefly, and cut the rest. Always know your hierarchy of importance so you can jettison the less critical stuff if needed. Prioritize, don't accelerate.
Adaptability is key. Now, the dreaded question you don't know the answer to? How to handle that without looking foolish?
It's a big fear. And yes, some people remember seeing presenters flustered by this, but here's the secret. The audience remembers your reaction more than the fact you didn't know.
So how should we react?
Calmly, confidently, honestly. Don't look panicked or defensive. It's okay not to know everything. Nobody expects you to.
What are some good phrases to use?
Things like, "That's a great question, and honestly, I don't have that specific detail right now, but I can find out and get back to you." Or, "That's an interesting angle I haven't fully explored yet." Or even just, "Thanks for raising that point." As long as you seem comfortable and confident while admitting you don't know, it's not a failure. It's just human.
Honesty and composure. Got it. Let's talk about filler words. Ums. How do we get rid of them?
First, perspective. Everyone uses them sometimes. Don't obsess over achieving zero. Focus on having something interesting to say. But yes, reducing them can make you sound more polished.
How do we know if we even have a problem?
Record yourself. That's the only way to know for sure. Listen objectively. Pay attention to the first 30 seconds fillers there can create a bad first impression of nerves or unpreparedness.
Okay, so awareness first. Then what? Not having someone ring a bell, right?
Definitely not. That just increases anxiety. The trick is gentle reconditioning. Use visual cues. Put little stickers or notes with M or H crossed out on your watch, your phone screen, your monitor, places you'll see them as you practice.
A constant little reminder.
Exactly. It just keeps it top of mind. Over a week or so of practice with those cues, you'll become much more aware right before you say one, and you can train yourself to just pause silently instead. The goal isn't perfection, just reduction. It works surprisingly well.
That's a clever, low-stress technique.
Thusly.
Troubleshooting voice quality. Do we need a deep radio voice to sound credible?
No, definitely not. Most people dislike their recorded voice simply because it sounds different than the internal resonance they hear. Your natural voice is likely perfectly fine. Trying to force a deeper tone often sounds artificial anyway.
So embrace your natural sound.
Yes. Learn to be comfortable with how you actually sound to others. If you tend to speak in a monotone, the fix isn't changing your fundamental voice. It's varying your pitch, pace, and volume more like you do naturally in animated conversation. Think about talking over noise or sharing exciting news. Bring that energy. Don't buy the myth that deeper is always better. As long as you're clear and audible, focus on what you say and how you say it with energy, not on changing your basic vocal cords.
Great advice. Okay, let's move towards wrapping up. Thinking long-term, developing a lifetime improvement plan. What's the single biggest difference you see between truly great presenters and just average ones?
If I had to pick one thing, it's storytelling. Great presenters consistently use interesting, relevant stories to illustrate their points and make them stick. Average presenters tend to rely on abstract points, facts, numbers, without that narrative glue.
Even in technical fields.
Even, and maybe especially, in technical fields. You can present data accurately and clearly and still be forgettable. The story provides the context, the emotion, the memorability. I've seen technically imperfect speakers captivate audiences with great stories, while polished speakers bored them with dry facts. Great speakers are great story collectors and retellers.
So before every talk, ask, do I have a good story for each key point?
That's the acid test. Yes means you're ready to be great. No means you're prepared for mediocrity, maybe. Storytelling trumps almost everything else.
Powerful. What about attitude? How much does mindset matter?
It matters hugely in presenting, maybe more than in some other skills. While attitude alone won't make you a champion sprinter if you haven't trained, in presenting, acting confident, projecting enthusiasm can actually make the audience perceive you that way. Confidence is contagious.
Fake it till you make it, to some extent.
To some extent, yes. Go into every presentation believing you will connect, you will communicate clearly, you will achieve your goal. That internal conviction radiates outward. World-class speakers often look like they genuinely love speaking. That positive energy draws people in.
Believe you'll nail it. Okay, who should we watch and learn from? Any specific role models?
Find your own favorites, people whose style resonates with you. But the key secret here is, don't just watch people you agree with.
Why not?
Because you limit your learning. You can learn powerful delivery techniques even from someone whose message you completely reject. Analyze how they communicate regardless of the what. Watch speakers across the political spectrum, different industries, different styles. Watch C-SPAN. Analyze what works, what doesn't for you.
Be a critical observer of technique.
Exactly. Make notes. But always filter it through your own personality. Be yourself. And the most important person to watch.
Yourself on video.
Always. Tape yourself regularly. Be your own toughest critic and best coach. Eventually, you'll watch famous speakers and think, I see what they did there. I could do that too, maybe even better. Develop your own role models, but ultimately be your own best model.
Love that. Final big question. Is great presenting just an innate talent? Are some people born with it?
Absolutely not. It is 100% a learned skill. Anyone can become a great presenter with focus and practice, just like baking or learning an instrument.
So it's not some magical gift?
Not at all. You already have the basic tools. You can talk, you can engage one-on-one. Presenting is about transferring those skills to a slightly different context, managing the nerves, and structuring your message effectively. If you've ever had one single interesting conversation with another human being, you have the raw technical ability.
So fear and lack of practice are the main barriers.
Mostly, yes. Once you manage the fear and practice the techniques, your natural conversational ability can shine. Look at history. Many famous speakers weren't naturals. They worked hard at it. Excellent presenters are made, not born. Most people are average simply because they haven't been trained or haven't practiced deliberately. You have the potential.
That's incredibly empowering. Lisa, this has been such a rich, deep dive. So many actionable insights into really making an impact when we speak.
It really boils down to that shift, doesn't it? Looking outward, understanding what your audience truly needs, and then crafting everything, your message, your stories, your delivery, to connect with them in a way that resonates and, crucially, is remembered.
Absolutely. So, as you, our listener, think about the next time you need to share your ideas, big or small. Consider this. How can you apply maybe just one of these insights to make a bigger impact? What's one small tweak you could make to your preparation or delivery?
Yeah, just pick one thing to try. Maybe it's recording yourself, or consciously thinking about a story, or focusing on that sustained eye contact. Small changes add up.
We really hope this deep dive has sparked some aha moments for you and given you practical tools you can use right away to feel more confident and make your voice heard more effectively.
And if you found this conversation valuable, if it gave you something useful to think about, we'd be so grateful if you'd take a second to like it, maybe share it with a friend or colleague who could benefit, and definitely subscribe to our channel.
We love doing these deep dives into topics that matter, and your support helps us keep doing them. Thanks so much for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.